With 18 days to go until Election Day, this campaign has officially reached its midway point. 4 parties have unveiled their platforms, each making their pitch to voters. This week, the Liberal Party shared its plan.
This is the plan that Canada needs to be even more ambitious, to draw all that we've learned on in fighting this crisis of COVID, to apply it to the crisis of climate change, of housing, of healthcare, of childcare.
But the Conservatives and the NDP question just how new this plan really was.
I think Canadians deserve better than that. Mr. Trudeau called the election and just recycled some promises he's already failed to deliver on from the previous election.
Why deliver on things when you can just campaign on it anyways? Why get things done when you can just promise it?
So what's behind the timing of this platform, or any of them for that matter? How is it all playing out on the campaign trail? It's Thursday. I'm here with At Issue, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, and Elamine Abdelmahmoud. I'm sure you heard the joy in my voice when I said we're midway through. It's very exciting. But let's start with the timing of this platform release. We talked about the Conservatives when they released it on day 2. Andrew, let me start with you tonight. What was it the right move for the Liberals to wait until the midway point? The fact that theirs is costed, the others aren't. What did you make of it?
I think it would have been a good move if there was much new in it. When it kind of comes out, and we've heard all this before, either, as was just said in the last election, or in the budget, or in the days and weeks prior to this, it looks a little bit like a damp squib. More than that, I don't think it really has really moved the needle. When you look at the Conservative platform, it did a lot of things for the Conservatives. It reintroduced people to Erin O'Toole. It established them as having, kind of normal guy preoccupations in terms of meat and potatoes issues rather than culture wars. And it just got them into the game. I'm not sure it reached out, for example, to people who weren't already in their base, which has always been the problem with Conservatives. I'm not sure the Liberal platform is going to do any of that for them. It mostly is going to reinforce people who are already going to vote Liberal in their determination to vote Liberal, but I'm not sure it's going to expand their vote any. They seem to have contracted a bit of the Tory disease in that regard.
Chantal, what did you make of the timing, and what was there?
This time last year, we were discussing what big ticket items would be in the throne speech. Then 6 months ago, we were all talking about what big ticket items would be in the budget. So to expect a Liberal platform to look very different would have been asking for a lot. And up to a point, except for the costing, which I believe is one item on which they caught the Conservatives off guard. It kind of walks them back into their trap, because you kind of look at whatever is new in there, and not a lot of it is, and you say, well, you did have a mandate that stretched for another 2 years. So you could have done all these things between now and the next election. That's basically... Yeah. Well, I mean, they did. It's hard to see what measures in there they would need a majority for.
Sure. If that's the argument, I mean, there was $78 billion in new spending. I don't know whether that required an election to go forward, given how much they spent through the pandemic. Althea, what stood out for you there?
Well, I agree with everything that was said. I think Chantal's point is basically that they could have introduced all these measures, and there's many measures in a throne speech, for example, and likely the NDP would have supported them. I mean, there are a few new things that I think are designed to appeal to some segments of the voter base that some of the Conservative policies, for example, I think of the gig workers. The Liberals have a very similar plan to the Tories' plan on gig workers, but mostly for Canadians in rural areas, for young people, students, or people just coming out from post-secondary education. There are new measures there that I think are designed to make sure they don't bleed to other political parties. I think the costing was really important. There are just to show that compare and contrast, like why the Conservatives did not even try to attempt to put a price tag on their own measures. And I mean, the likely reason is that they're looking for the parliamentary budget officer to give a price tag. And so they are not going to be like in 2015 when the NDP put out its costing. But Kevin Page, the former parliamentary budget officer, called it Swiss cheese, saying that their math was so terribly wrong. How could they possibly, the implication was, how could they possibly govern? Right? The Conservatives wanted to avoid stories like that. I think it's completely natural that this platform is an extension of what the Liberals have been talking about for 2 years. It would have been a shocker if it wasn't, is it enough to change the tide? Probably would have been to their benefit to release it earlier, so candidates knocking on doors would have had something to talk about.
What do you think, Elamine? Is it enough to push them into it, for them to get some momentum, I guess, because that's partly what this was supposed to do as well?
No, not at all. I mean, like, are we going to be talking about this over the weekend? Are people going to be talking about this, over the long weekend? No, I don't think so. It is not that kind of platform. Having said that, I think the expectations of wanting one shiny thing in this platform were not set by us. It was set by the Prime Minister when he launched his campaign, when he began this whole campaign by saying, this is a really important, big moment. And so that's going to demand some important, big thing. Well, what is that thing? We are sitting here halfway through this campaign, and that thing has not popped up. It is not in that platform. I think you're right to mention the $78 billion in new spending. I think that is something that people will pick up on in terms of saying this Liberal government is not going to be shy about spending money. But I think, like, if you thought they were shy about spending money, I don't know where you've been for the past 2 years.
Okay, so if the platform isn't the thing, is some of the messaging we're hearing on the campaign trail the thing? And I want to play this clip of the Liberal leader in Sudbury this week, where again he faced, very, violent but threatening protesters, let's say vocal protesters, and his response was a little bit different. And I would like to hear your take on it. Here's what he said.
Canadians made incredible sacrifices over the past year and a half, and Aaron O'Toole is siding with them instead of with Canadians who did their part and stepped up.
Andrew, what do you make now of how the Liberals seem to be using these protests for their political advantage?
It's a pretty standard political play. If you're the subject of some terrible attack, you try to make yourself the mantle of dignity and resolve. I'm not sure they're going to succeed in what is evidently an attempt to turn the election into a referendum on anti-vax protesters. It'd be easy if one of the other parties was actually siding with these people, or indeed if these people were actually supporting any of the major parties. I would suspect they're probably fans of the People's Party. So Liberals are trying hard to do this, to try and connect this to the Conservatives. I don't think they're going to be successful on it. And particularly, I don't think they're going to wipe away everything else that the election is about to just focus on this one issue.
Chantal.
I suspect that Ontario Premier Doug Ford, although it was a bit of a clumsy rollout by going for vaccine passports, kind of took a lot of energy out of the Liberal attack, because it would have been tempting to say, well, you can tell Aaron O'Toole is with those people because look at all the Conservative premiers, except the premier of the largest province has just decided to have vaccine passports, is not coming across as someone who's saying, I don't really care that people are vaccinated. So I think this week, despite the clumsiness from Queen's Park, Aaron O'Toole got an assist from Premier Ford.
Except Aaron O'Toole, I'm not sure how clear he's been on vaccine passports, but we sure know that he's not in favor of mandatory vaccination. He wants people to be able to choose. And I wonder if there isn't room there for the Liberals, Althea, to continue making that point.
Well, the Liberals were hoping that part of the ballot question was going to be, who do you trust to finish the fight against COVID? Right. And the anti-vaxxers fit into that theme, and they fit into the theme perfectly for Justin Trudeau. So it's like he's inherited this perfect foil. And yes, the Conservatives, especially on Friday, they sent out a statement, and Mr. O'Toole has distanced himself, encouraging people to get vaccinated. But could he do more to suggest that this type of action is not acceptable, that these threats are not acceptable, that everybody should get vaccinated? I mean, just talking about the anti-vaxxers protest allows the Liberals to remind voters that Aaron O'Toole is not in favor of having mandatory vaccinations on planes and trains. And most people, public opinion polls suggest, are on side with the Liberals on that question. Yeah. So will people have that in mind when they go to the ballot box? I don't know, maybe.
Chantal, quickly, and then Elamine.
Or else the Liberals' play is really to push Aaron O'Toole to keep repeating that he doesn't agree with anti-vaxxers, hoping to push more Conservative voters to Maxime Bernier's party, and so undermine the Conservatives. Yeah. But otherwise, to tell you the truth, I don't think most people are going to go vote on whether they need to be vaccinated to take a train or a plane.
Elamine, last point to you.
I will say that it speaks volumes that even during the rollout of that platform, Trudeau was speaking immediately about those mandatory vaccines. And it's because they do want to return to that topic. It is the thing that got them a few headlines and a few, a bit of momentum right at the very start of the campaign. And so the idea of returning to that, it's like there's something there. And after trying lots of things for a week and a half, there was just not a lot there. So it makes sense that they would return to this, but also at the same time, I'm not sure that Aaron O'Toole is the person that they're trying to paint him to be, or at least I think he's going to be able to say that fairly loudly and then kind of put this to bed.
After meeting with Canadians on the campaign trail, the leaders now have several opportunities to face each other. 3 debates will take place between tonight and next Thursday, 2 in French and 1 in English. So how important are these for the leaders? Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine join me for another quick round of At Issue. It seems like, we always say this, but it seems like debates matter because that's when people watch and maybe they tune in, they get an idea. And if the debate is good, it maybe can be a moment for a leader. Because the race seems so tight, does it matter in a different way? Who has the most to lose or win in this, Althea?
Debates do matter. If you look at 2019, the Andrew Scheer's performance during the TVA debate really kind of sunk his party, and you saw the Bloc Québécois rise. Probably the person who has the most to lose is the Liberal leader. He called this election. There's a lot on the line for him, including his political future. So I guess those would be my answers to your questions.
Elamine, do you think that there is extra pressure given that, I'm not sure everyone was paying attention up until these debate moments?
And I'm not sure anybody's paying attention going into this weekend either. But I will have to say that, at least at this stage, you can only lose. You can only lose in tonight's debate. And is there anything to be won? Yeah, and just sort of appearing to be competent and not the sort of villain that other parties are painting you to be. But debates are these kind of minefield where there's a lot more to lose than there is to win. And so I'm glad that these parties agree to them, but God, this particular round, I think is going to be quite treacherous.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing them for sure. No. Chantal, given all the debates you've seen in this race, do you think that there is, more significance, or is this potentially more of a turning point?
Okay, a couple of points. I believe the campaign is at a tipping point, yes. So the debates matter. I also believe that a lot of people are not paying as much attention as they will. And what's been happening over that period is that Aaron O'Toole has gone from non-starter to prospective prime minister. And so the buzz going in the debate is a lot more positive about Aaron O'Toole than anything they could have hoped for. It also means that on all those debates, there will be more scrutiny and attention paid to the Conservative leader than there might otherwise have been. That makes him the person who has the most to gain, but who is also the least known quantity on the debates. In the case of the French language debates, I actually believe that the one who has the most to lose is Yves-François Blanchet from the Bloc Québécois, because his campaign has not been doing well. No. It doesn't really transpire a lot in English, but he has gone from misstep to misstep to misstep, including the body language misstep when people start saying, I don't like this guy. And on that basis, he needs to come across as a nicer person over those French debates.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch. There have been direct questions to him about whether he's too arrogant, which is not really the kind of question you want to have to field. Andrew, and then we might have time for another quick round there. Andrew, what do you think?
Debates are always important, probably more important than they should be, but I can think of countless elections where they've really moved the numbers. Sure. I think particularly in this case, some section of the public has been paying attention to this election now. You wouldn't see the movement we've seen in the polls if they hadn't been, but there's a lot of people who are just tuning in now. In an election that is so tight, and an election in which there's no really defining, dominating issue, then the personalities and characters of the leaders are going to be extremely important. And I think all of them have a lot to gain or lose. Justin Trudeau, it's his opportunity to try to explain what this election was called for, which I think has really hurt him through the first half of the election campaign, is the perception that it was just all an opportunistic play. Aaron O'Toole, who has made some yards with some voters in the early part of this election, but is still introducing himself to a lot of people. And Jagmeet Singh, who is his party's biggest asset right now. He is more popular than the other leaders. but who hasn't really had a chance to get into the middle of the conversation of this election until now. Now he's going to be on stage with all the others, and if he still has that appeal to people, he'll be able to deploy that to his advantage.
I'm going to give Althea the last word here. 30 seconds.
Okay. I don't think that all the parties have something to lose. I think there's lots to gain. I think Bloc Québécois, Jean-François Blanchet, has an opportunity to change the course. So to me, that's an opportunity to win. The Liberals haven't, I think, made the case for like what's at risk if they don't get reelected. That's an opportunity for them to do so. And Jagmeet, who Andrew is correct, actually polls better than even his party's brand. He gets to convince voters that a vote for the NDP isn't a wasted vote. So there are opportunities for all the party leaders to score some points. And I don't actually think, I agree with everybody, I don't think people have been paying that close attention. And Aaron O'Toole gets to show people what he would be like as prime minister. So there's lots of great opportunities for the leaders if they step up to the plate.
Okay, well, good news. You're all going to be back here next Thursday after the debate until the wee hours to help us figure out what we just saw. So thanks for setting it up, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.